And we're back. All right. I went to Desmos.com, and I believe that you can use a Desmos calculator or a version of the Desmos calculator on the air test. But I went here and I just started graphing. When I hit start graphing, I get something like this. Looks like that. Now, we can do all kinds of things in here, but right now we're going to focus our attention on statistics. Um, If you go to Alex, we have different homeworks. We've already talked about homeworks 1 and 2. I'm going to move on to homework number 3. And if you click on it, I'm going to do a preview. This is kind of what you'll see. I'm sorry, that's my son. In Alex, in this assignment, I have 7 questions in there. Take a quick look at them. This is homework 3, unit 6. So I'll give you a list of information. I'm going to ask you to find the mean and the median. And the second question, and again, you can do that by hand or you can do that by way of a calculator. In the second one, I'm going to give you some information. Which one is better to use, mean, median, and then which one does this describe? So we're going to look at mean, median, or mode given some information. On this third question, if it ever comes, I just want you to find the mode, just finding how many are common. The fourth one, there are some distances. I want to get the 5-number summary. We're going to get that. We can calculate that actually, or we can use Desmos to do that. I may have 2 of those in here. Nope, I'm just looking for the range in this one. In number 6, I'm looking for the mean absolute deviation. I think it said mean average in our notes, but mean absolute deviation is correct. And then for number 7, just going to find the standard deviation. Okay, just wanted you to see what I'm asking you to do. If you take a really good look at it, it's not as tough as it sounds. There are a lot of good fancy names in here, right? So according to this, so each of 8 students reported the number of movies they saw in the past year, and this is what they reported. I want to find the mean and the median of what they saw. Round it to the nearest 10th if you need to round. All right, so in Desmos, we can do that. Now, of course, you have to put this in order to find the mean and the median. We can do that in Desmos if we start off by making it a list. You can make it a list in Desmos by, and actually, I'm going to have to move this thing. Okay, I'll just hide it for now. You can make it a list using a couple of different things, right? So if you look at your keyboard, what you need to use is a bracket. So it's this thing right here. So you can hit that and it starts it. Now that's a list. That's telling Desmos, I'm about to write a list in here. I'm going to write this list of numbers and I have to separate it by commas. Now I would love to come over here and copy and paste, but I think for some of these, it will let us. Let's see if that allows us to copy and paste. Oh, it does. That makes it so much easier. Fantastic. So we now, as you can see, have an 8-element list. Now that's good, but you know what? Instead of me having to copy that list, let me name this list of data. So I'm going to call this L equals. So L is an 8-element list. I now have a list of numbers. Let me hit enter. So that is concrete. All right. So all I did was create a list of numbers and then I named it L. So I don't have to keep copying all those numbers in there. Why is that important? Because there are some other functions in Desmos here. If you look at this keypad, you can hide it again, and it shows that there's this thing called functions. If you click on it, you get all kinds of things. There's a trigonometry tab. We don't need to worry about that in this class. There's a stats tab. We will use that. There are some things in there. Let me just eliminate some of these other things. In some of our notes, we talked about distributions. There is a normal distribution that is really important, but that's for later in the class. You can create a box plot and a dot plot, which is the same as a line plot. So those are all good. And then miscellaneous, it's just different stuff. We don't need to worry about that right now. But if I wanted to find the least common multiple, at least, or the greatest common denominator, or if I wanted to round something, find a percentage. So I can find different things in here. So this is just a function of what Desmos does. I'm going to go back to the stats tab. Now I could go through and find all kinds of things. Like I can find the mean, and it's asking me, well, the mean of what? Well, I could go in and copy all of these things. In fact, I'll do that for this first one, and I'll paste it in there, and it tells you that it's 10.125. I could also go to the functions, type in mean, and instead of writing the whole list, I can just type in the L, because I defined it as L, and you see that I get the same number. Well, similarly, I could probably do the same thing. This time I'm going to type it in. The median was one of the functions that it recognized. And if I type in median, I find that the median is 8. While I'm at it, I can do all kinds of other things as well, right? I could hit enter on that. I could find I don't know if the mode is one of them that it represents. I don't think it recognizes mode. So that's not a function. You just have to count the number there, so you don't need that for that. Let me see, does it recognize range? Well, ooh, it does not. I don't like that. So let's get rid of that, that, and that. All right, so does not do the range, but we'd have to put this in the order, find the maximum and the minimum, and then subtract them. That's not that big a deal. While I'm here, and I know this one is not asking about it, but while I'm here, I can just find the standard deviation. It's a function under stats, STDEV. All right, there's this thing called the standard deviation population. This is not of the population. So it depends on what it's asking you. We'll see later on what this one is asking. If it says of the population standard deviation or the population standard deviation, I would use the one with the P for population. If it doesn't, then I would use this one. For now, I'll just do that and find it for that list. There's a standard deviation. And it also allows you to find the MAD. It's in here somewhere. There it is. The MAD of L. All right, so let's just go through this and see what we can do. We found out that the mean and the median, the mean, and it says round to the nearest tenth, so that's going to be 10.1. And then the median, I don't have to round it, it's just 8. So I did a lot of talking, but Desmos did all the walking. If I come to number 2, it may ask me for, I can't remember exactly. Okay, answer this question. The 9 members of a swim team completed the following number of laps at today's practice. It's this list of numbers. Notice that it is in order. Which measure should be used to summarize the data? Now, part B is going to do something similar. Part C, we'll talk about in a second. But given this information, data is affected more by things called outliers when you start talking about the mean. If I change this number to something closer to the 91, my average would be different. But notice all of these kind of go from like 78 to 91, right? They kind of go from the 78 up to 91, but look at this 150. It doesn't seem to really apply or fit. It's different than all the rest. We call that thing an outlier. If I look at this data, the mean is more affected by the outlier, because if I make this number a lot smaller, then my average will be a lot smaller. If I made this number even larger, then my average would be larger, because it takes into account all of the values. The median is just looking for, hey, there's a list of numbers. As long as this one is the biggest one, the median won't change. It'll always stay right in the middle. So when you have an outlier, you should not use the mean, because the mean is going to be affected by that. If you do not have an outlier, then I would use the mean. So which one should I use here? Since we have an outlier, I don't want to use that mean. I'm going to use the median. It's the best way to describe that. If I look at this in part B, all these numbers, they're not exactly the same, but there isn't really what I would consider an outlier. And so I think the better way to look at that would be the average. It's not affected by an outlier as much. Now, Tony wants to determine which letter, part C. He wants to determine which letter appears the most often in his favorite poem. Which measure should he use? Well, which of these things talk about the most often number? The mode. Right. Check that. Took a while. Good. For number 3, and some of these I'm not going to do. Okay, find the modes of this data set. It might be more than one. In fact, if there is more than one, separate them by commas. If there is no mode, click on no mode. It's right there. You can do that. All right, the 5-number summary and the interquartile range. So this thing, it says, notice that they're in order from least to greatest. You don't have to do anything fancy. The minimum here is 16. The maximum here is 40. That's good. What's the median? Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 items. And so, and let me go ahead and get this back if I can. It's green right now, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the one in the middle is at 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the median. That is 26. And I do that line in there because I like to see where the line separates everything, because now I'm looking at this list over here as the first half, and then this list over here as the second half. That'll help me find the lower and upper quartiles. Lower quartile is the same as Q1. So I just need to find the median of these items. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. The median is going to fall right here. If I do 19 plus 19, that's 38. Divided by 2 is 19. So the first quartile, and actually let me do what I just said. All right, I'll do it. To find the first quartile, I need to find the median of this first half, which is really the average of those two. So for Q1, it's going to be 19 plus 19 all over 2. 19 plus 19 is 38 all over 2, or I'll do it up here, which equals 19. I'm going to do the same thing for Q3. I'm looking at these items, and there are 6 numbers here again. I need to do the average of those two. So Q3 is, when I add those together, that gets me 68 divided by 2, which is 34. All right, and so I can type in 34 here. To find the interquartile range, if you remember from the notes, the IQR is really just Q3 minus Q1. I'm saying 34 minus 19. All right, minus 19 is 15. 1, 5. So the interquartile range should be 15. I didn't have to worry about any kind of rounding. We should be good. Unless I made a quick mistake somewhere on the math, the process was good, and we're good. And then number 5, I know this is a long video, sorry, but I wanted to get all this practice in here. Find the range, we can do that. Now 6 and 7, all we got to do is take that information, copy it over here, and calculate it. 6 gives, we're asking to find, oh, I can copy it, good. I could go ahead and use that. I'm trying to find the mean absolute deviation, the MAD. So if I went back over here, I could go down here to a new one and find the MAD. Oh no, I don't have a list yet. So let me first make the list. I'm going to call this one A, just so I can name it. And then I'm going to find the MAD of A. 5.66. It says round to the nearest hundredth. That's going to be 5.67. Did I hit yet? Okay. And the same thing for the standard deviation. I'm not going to do it, but you would just come over here, copy and paste it, and plug in the standard deviation right here. That's a long video. I'm done.